Morning, everybody. I hope you're well. Um, so I want to speak to you all about anxiety, and I've wanted to speak about this for a long, long time, but it's quite a vulnerable thing for me to speak about because it's personal. I find it quite easy now to jump online and talk business and share things on that point of view, but I think sometimes when it's something so personal that you've been through yourself, it's not always easy. So I started putting it off and soon realised that actually the reason I was putting off doing the videos because I was making it all about me. Whereas if I can just help one person by sharing what I've been through, what I've learned, the tools I've learned that help me, then it's so worth it. So I want to stop thinking about me and what people may think about this. I just want to share my experience and hopefully help someone. So maybe you've never suffered with anxiety, maybe you know someone that has, so you can privately share this with them. Or maybe it's good just to maybe listen to this because maybe there'll be a day where it'll help you. But even if you don't suffer, this will help anybody, whether it's stresses of running a busy family, having kids is the best job in the world, but it can be the hardest as well. So it can be a tool to help you cope with things like that. Maybe you have a very stressful full-on job. Maybe someone in your family is going through a really tough time and you want to be strong for them. So even if this isn't something that's going to help you right now, down the line, it might be something you can come back to. So today for day one, I just thought I'd really just open up and share my first experiences of it. Because I never thought I would be someone to suffer with anxiety. And it is a daily process of working on it. So everyone gets worried and stressed about certain things, and that is totally normal. But I got to the point where it was a daily thing, and it got pretty bad at one point where from the moment I woke up I was in a place of intense fear and worry, and that would build because fear just breeds on fear as the day would go on, and then that could escalate to a panic attack. So kind of taking you back, mental health does run through my family. So as I was growing up, my uncle, who sadly passed when I was 14, who was one of my biggest cheerleaders, a lot of what I do is to make him proud, but he suffered as manic depressive, and actually he suffered with schizophrenia as well. So he went through some really, really tough times. He was one of the most loving, amazing people that I ever met, and he was the first person to introduce me to music, bought me my first keyboard, bought me my first songbooks. He would always ring me and ask how my dancing competitions were going, and he'd give me advice on life and what not to do, not falling into the whole partying scenario and getting in with the wrong crowd. And, from being a teenager, he would give me tips and advice, but he was just mainly one of my biggest cheerleaders, should I say. All my family have cheered me on for everything I've ever wanted to do. So I'd been brought up kind of knowing what mental health can do to someone and how it can limit people and hold them back. But I never thought that would be me, ever. So kind of growing up, I had no fear about anything. I always knew what I wanted to do, and that was to be a dancer. I never looked past that. I never really thought about maybe when I was older what I was going to do. I just had those big desires. So there was no fear about anything in the early days. I went away to uni, had the best time. I met the most amazing friends for life there. Don't get to see you girlies as much as I'd like to, but I had just the most amazing time, moved to London with them, worked abroad, and then moved back to London by myself, lived in this little studio flat. I moved down there, I had no job, no friends, and just thought, it's fine, everything will always work out. And I think because I have always had a very positive attitude and a no regrets approach to life, I just went with it anyway, and everything does always work out, and I've always kind of led with that. But kind of what happened down the line is I did get in with bad relationships, toxic relationships, and without even noticing it, my personal self, the real me, started to get battered down. and that's when anxiety started to creep in. So I would say the first big thing that made me notice, like maybe something was not right, was panic attacks. So this was probably even before the anxiety kicked in. So I had two major ones that were pretty scary. I don't know if anyone's ever had one before, but the first time you have one, you literally think you're having a heart attack, and the world's going to end. It's very, very scary. So these were happening maybe once a month, and they started to happen in very strange places. So I remember walking around Boots one day. This is going back maybe 15 years now, and a panic attack coming in. It was like the whole shop just kind of closed in and all sound disappeared. And all I could hear was my heart beating, and it was just utter fear. It happened when I was in the gym once. It happened in my dance class at university once. That was really scary, and I didn't talk to anyone about it. That's the sad thing, and that's why I wanted to share this, because people don't feel they can talk about it. But actually, once I started to open up, some of the most successful people I know have or still do suffer with it. But it's about having tools to help you, isn't it? So what happened from there is basically I just needed to get myself out of a certain circumstance because I was starting to struggle. But I think sometimes when you bottle things up for a long time, or other people have put you down and, emotionally beat you down, sometimes you can bury that. And I think naturally, being quite a strong driven person, I buried everything down. But when we don't get help or speak about things, that's when it starts to bubble up. And I do think anxiety, I'm not a life coach, I'm not a counsellor, I'm not a doctor, but I can only really share my experience. But it bubbles up in other scenarios. And then obviously when something in life hits hard, that's when you can start to crumble. So when it really got to its peak, I would say, was when I was running my own traditional business and went through a really stressful time. I had to take a company to court. I didn't know what I was doing. It was costing hundreds and hundreds of pounds. The pressure of that, and having to sit in a court against some really not very nice people, it just blew my top. And it was so hard because I was a new mum at the time, and I should have been enjoying that time with my new baby. But instead, I was totally in my own head, going through this court case, which has never been settled as well. So it's always like this black cloud hovering. So things never got settled from that. And I do remember, and anyone that has ever suffered, I remember just walking down the street, and at one point I wouldn't have cared if I'd have got knocked over. It was that bad. So if anyone is going through it, just please speak to someone, definitely. So what happened from there is actually I decided to step away from some of the things I was doing. I actually let my agency go a few years ago now, and it was my baby that I'd built up from thinking of the name for the business, for building it up and running that for 9 years. I let it go because I actually came to that realization that my well-being and my happiness it means so much more than having this big exciting business. And I do think a lot of the stuff I was doing was for outside recognition and validation, so I could feel better about myself. I know what I do now, it is all about paying it forward and helping other people, and I think that has really helped me in a big way. So I would say with anxiety, it can always be there, and this is why I really promote personal development, and it's a daily process. What a lot of people do is they'll work on themselves and they'll look after themselves when things are bad, and then they'll start to feel better, but then they stop. And it really is a lifelong thing. So I work on myself every single day so my mindset can be in the best possible place. So over the next few days, I'm going to share some of the things I do which have helped me, but also hopefully can help some of you guys or someone you know too. So 5 years ago when I started my current business, we were recommended to do personal development, and this was the biggest turning point for me. So I started my business, and to be honest, to start with, I was just doing the business. I wasn't doing any of the reading or the personal development. And then I went through a really tough time. Just when I thought I was getting myself back on track, the anxiety had subsided. I really do think, I know this sounds a bit dramatic, but I do think having my first son, Alex, who's actually at home with me today because he's been very poorly, which has been a test on my nerves the last 24 hours. But having him, I do think, saved me, basically. Because before that, I was just in my head the whole time, worrying about everything. The anxiety was getting really, really bad. So suddenly I had something outside of me to focus on. And it was just all about love and gratitude for this new baby. So it really did help me having Alex. But still, I wasn't in a great place, because when big things happened, like the court case, or, you know, if people fell ill, you know, I couldn't cope with that type of thing. So this is where a lot of the work has started from. So about 3 months into starting my social marketing business, which I know a lot of you know exactly what I do because you're on this page. And if you don't, you know, I have a website, michellevodden.com, which talks a little bit more about what I actually do, what it means to me. But I went through a tough time. I actually had a miscarriage 3 months after starting my business, and I just went into a black hole. I don't think I left the house for a month. I cried every day, and I was actually 3 months into the pregnancy, so it was quite far on. So the anxiety came back, and it came back big, and something happened to me in that time. So I would say, as a first thing, whether you suffer with anxiety or not, like, definitely read this book. So I read the book The Secret, mainly just because I'd actually bought my mum the book about 8 years before and never looked at it myself. I wish I had read it 8 years before, but I read The Secret and really started to become aware of my negative thought patterns, that inner voice going on, and how it was, you know, almost sabotaging me and just not allowing me to live how I want to. And, you know, everything I was doing, and I used to pile so much work on myself. You know, I'd set up the agency, then I'd be opening a dance school, then a photography studio, and it was always just to dull down the anxiety, so that the more busier I was, the less time I had to think about it. But stress is just so bad for us on all levels, isn't it? For our health, for our happiness. So that's what I was just doing, piling and piling things on. So I read The Secret, and, you know, a month later I was back into my business and I was socializing, and, you know, life carries on as it does, and it has to. And I had a baby. Well, Alex wasn't a baby at the time, he was about 2, but I had a 2-year-old to focus on. So I was focusing just on my business and my baby, and I let everything else go. I let the agency go, which was hard. I didn't go back to full-time teaching. I just decided that from this point on, life is too short. It's all about being happy, being with my family, and being able to help others, which are like my values, which I live by and grow my business by now. So the next thing that really helped me was actually another book on the reading list for my business called The Chimp Paradox. And I would say reading that book was literally like taking a switch to my anxiety and being able to pause it and turn it off, because suddenly I'd become aware of my thoughts. And so please go read that book, or at least go onto YouTube and type in The Chimp Paradox, and it'll give you a quick overview and some imagery of how it works. I actually heard Dr. Peters, the author, speak at our conference last year, which was really special, because obviously he has no idea how much he'd helped me. So this is me passing this on to you. But The Chimp Paradox talks about the brain and the 3 parts of the brain. So you've got your computer, you've got the real you, and then you've got your chimp. And all the information that comes in, and all the circumstances, and the good and the, you know, the rubbish stuff that happens to us in life, in order to kind of go through to you, first it has to go through the chimp. And the chimp, it's just a really good kind of visual, isn't it, to have. The chimp is that voice inside your head telling you you can't do this. So maybe you've got people in your life that are saying you can't do this, you're not good enough, da da da. Firstly, get those people out of your life, because I have been there and it does not serve you. Like, just get those people out of your life. Life's too short to be hanging around with people that don't lift you up. But if you've got that chimp inside your head doing that, that's hard to deal with. So, that voice inside your head saying you're not confident enough, or you're not pretty enough, or you don't know enough. Like, what will people think of you? And this voice in my head was just going crazy all the time. When I set up my new business, my chimp was just in override. I had massive pride issues, like, what will people think? Da da da. And it's just absolutely bonkers. But as soon as I recognised that actually that wasn't the real me, the book teaches you how to shut the chimp off, so that when things happen to you, you can react as you, and not the chimp. And that has just absolutely, I would say, changed my life, because if I hadn't have read these books and done what I've done up to today, I probably wouldn't have built the business I've had and met all the amazing people I have and amazing experiences. So the Chimp Paradox, highly recommend it. And from there, I just realised the value of working on yourself and personal development and personal growth. To not only learn more about what you do in your industry, but to just become your best self. Like, you just want to be your best version of yourself every day. And I still have days where, I'm in a bit of a funk or something's happened, but I have tools now to really, really help me. And at the end of these videos, I'll share one of the groups that I have, which basically I just set up for me to be a kind of online library of everything that I use. But actually, I've met a few people recently that have limitations that's holding them back from doing something, or from growing their business, or from just even getting really stressed out with the kids. So I'm going to open that group up to special people that enjoy this video over the next few days and may need some help. But what I really started to do was work on myself. What I do every day now is something called a miracle morning. You could call it a power hour. And this has been a game changer for me. What I have been very, very guilty of, and I'm sure a lot of mums in business have been here, is I am either in full-on mum mode, because I am a full-time mum. I am at home with my 1-year-old every single day, all day, and during the night, some nights as well. My 3-year-old little gal, she goes to playgroup 2 days a week, but she's with me the rest of the time, which is lovely, and that's why I do what I do, so she can be here. But again, that has, you've got to be in good form, haven't you, to be the best for your kids. And so I get up an hour earlier than the kids now, and I never ever thought I would say that. When I used to run my agency, I'd work a lot of nights. I was really quite a night owl, and I would sleep till maybe 10, 11 during the day. I'd have no routine unless I was going out and teaching during the day. I had no routine, and that didn't help me at all. I was also someone that very much lived for the weekend in the past. So I think a lot of people are guilty of this. If you're not really happy in what you're doing as a job, you live for the weekend. You go intoxicate yourself for 2 days. You then feel awful for about 2 or 3 days. And that wasn't helping my anxiety issues at all, because people drink alcohol, and some people would even have other things to dampen down and lose that part of themselves that's not happy, or that's stressed about work, or if you suffer with anxiety, it dulls it down. But actually you're making it 10 times worse in the long run, because it's got to come out at some point. So what I have found, obviously now as a mum, I don't really go partying that often. It's quite a rare occasion now. I've found other tools that do exactly the same thing. They block out all your worries, all your cares, and you react to things in such a better way, but they're healthy for you. So I get up early, I do 10 minutes of meditation, and I don't do this by myself. I actually log online, and a few of my friends jump on too. There's about 6 of us that hop on at 6 o'clock. We do 10 minutes of meditation. So over the next few days, I'm going to share why exactly these things are important and what they do. But I do the meditation, I do positive affirmations. So these are a big game changer. Anybody, so if you're in business, anyone that's top of their game in their business either naturally talks to themselves with positive affirmations without realizing, or they purposely do them every single day. So affirmations were big for me, especially having anxiety. And if you've got that kind of chimp in your head that's saying negative things, what you first need to do is be aware of the negative things that you tell yourself, even jot them down. And then you need to reverse that negative thing you say to yourself and write it as a positive affirmation. I was recommended to do this day one from my business 5 years ago, and I didn't do it from the start. So whether you're in business or not, this can help you with anything. So have a little think about, what do you say to yourself that's quite negative? It could be you're not good enough to do that, or actually you're lazy, or as parents, gosh, you go through so many emotions as a parent, don't you? And you have days where you're like, I'm a terrible parent. All these things you say to yourself, switch it round. You know, I have an audio now on my phone of positive affirmations. So things that used to scare me, like public speaking, rather than just letting my head be like, oh no, you can't do this, you're going to slip up, people are going to laugh at you, which is what I used to think before I stood up and spoke in front of 5 people. I had a positive affirmation of, I'm a confident and inspiring speaker. So then when an opportunity came up and I was asked to do public speaking, rather than sitting there and getting myself in a mess, I would be saying in my head the positive affirmations, and then I would stand up and I would go and speak confidently. So it really, really does work. The first time I got asked to speak publicly, and I had no issue teaching kids how to dance and public speaking in that way. That was very comfortable for me. But when it came to standing up in front of adults, I would worry very much if I was going to sound stupid. And I think that was because for many years in toxic relationships, I was called stupid all the time. And that just gets cemented into your brain. So again, move away from anyone that's talking to you negatively like that. So positive affirmations, it can be anything. I'm a confident and inspiring speaker. I'm a patient and loving yet firm parent. Everything I do comes from a place of love. I'm in abundance of health, wealth, and happiness. Whatever it is that you limit yourself with and you talk to yourself negatively about, just write something down positive that you can say to yourself each day, or record it as an audio and just listen to it. So then I'll do that for about 5 minutes, and then I'll do a little bit of visualization. And I'll go into this more in the videos, but I have a vision board. And I'll talk about the science behind that as well, because it's just incredible. Pictures that I had on my vision board, a few years ago, have now come true. And it just keeps you on track. It keeps you focused, and it keeps you positive to know where you're going. I think if you do suffer with anxiety, or even just limiting beliefs in yourself, you tend to be either worrying about what's happened in the past and dragging that with you, which is then going to impact what you're doing now in a negative way, or you're worrying so much about the future. And yes, we have control over it, but also we've got to be able to let go and surrender a little bit as well. But if we're very anxious about the past and the future, we're not present. And true happiness and well-being is really when you're just staying present, when you're present in that moment, and you're finding gratitude in it. So visualization is amazing for that. Gratitude I will touch on in the videos as well, but this has been a big thing for me. So switching fear into a place of love. My first example of this would be actually in university, and I had to do a contemporary solo in front of a theatre of about 200 people. So as you can imagine, I love dancing, but I was terrified, and it was part of my degree, so there was no getting out of it. And what I did is I started to try and change that feeling of fear into a feeling of excitement. And actually what I've learned years down the line now in my business, because I do a lot of reading on psychology books, is that it's the same chemical when you feel excitement and fear, it's the same chemical release in the body. So actually you can switch fear to excitement quite easily once you're aware of it. So I'd be stood backstage behind the wings, and I would turn that fear into excitement and just feel gratitude that I had that opportunity. So this is one of my biggest things. If ever you're having a really rubbish day, maybe the kids are just that way out and they're driving you up the walls, or whatever it is, your job, or someone's being disrespectful at work, something like that, just try and detach from there, become present and find gratitude for something. It might be gratitude in that you're being given this opportunity to stay calm. It'd be gratitude for your children, that you have healthy children, because some days when you know your kids are going at you, you've got to find gratitude. You know, don't lose it. And I learned this in teacher training. You know, losing your temper, they just see like you've lost control and you have no strength, and then they just play on it even more. So what I find now is when I've done my miracle morning, when the kids start to wake up, usually around 7 as I'm finishing, they can be in whatever mood they want, because I have protected myself. I've given myself some self-love. I've put myself in a positive place, so I can react much better to that. Obviously, I have off days. No one's perfect. But I do feel a massive shift in myself from implementing that. Exercise as well. I do 10 minutes of yoga in the morning. Being an ex-professional dancer, I used to exercise all the time, and it's not until you stop exercising you see the difference in your mood. So just 10 minutes in the morning really helps me. I can tell if I miss the exercise out in my mood that day. 100%. So even if it's just going for a walk with the kids in the pram or whatever that is, just try and do something that gets your heart rate up. Just put some music on, put some really good music on. And that can change your mood straight away as well. Listening to something positive that you love. If you're in a bit of a bad place, just a song for 3 minutes can change how you're feeling. And also I do reading, so I read a lot of books on my industry, but also I love reading books about psychology, and how your brain works, how we react to things, how we communicate with other people. And also I do like quite a lot of spiritual books as well, not religious books, but kind of thinking about the law of attraction and what we think about, we bring about, and that type of thing. I find that all fascinating. So that's kind of an introduction today. If you've got any questions, like I know for a lot of people that may watch this, you might not want to comment on the live video, do inbox me, because I'm happy to answer questions and send you links to books and audios that have helped me. I'm going to be sharing a lot over the week. And I know this has really got nothing, well actually I'd say it's got nothing to do with my business and my business page, but actually it's got everything to do with my business, because my mindset is my business. You know, we are the ones that limit ourselves or propel ourselves forward. So I think helping people with their mindset and the self-belief is important above everything else. So hopefully someone will find value from this. I would love to hear your experiences. If there's anything you've been through and you've overcome and come out the other side, feel free to comment below if you want to help other people by sharing as well. But also feel free to privately message me if you'd rather chat that way. And I look forward to chatting to you over the next few days, and I'm going to kind of dig a bit deeper, tell you the science behind, you know, meditation, affirmations, visualization, and also I'll give you some of my top books that I read too. But yeah, can't wait to speak to you all again soon. Have an amazing day, and just remember, whatever life throws at you, just try and switch that fear into love. Think of something you're grateful for, even if it's just the roof over your head, running water in your house, the fact you've got healthy children. Like, find gratitude in something. But also, whenever something bad happens to me, I always think, there's a lesson here. What am I meant to be learning from this situation? I used to fall into victim mode and start feeling anxious about everything, but I don't now. I refuse to be a victim about things. I think, okay, someone is trying to teach me something here. There's a lesson to be learned. Let's look to myself. How could I be better so that that situation maybe doesn't happen again? Or how can I help someone else who's going through something that's hard for them at the moment? But I'll leave it there because I could talk all day about this. But yeah, looking forward to hearing from some of you soon, and I'll check back tomorrow. Bye.